Hey everyone, what's a crack? This is Effort Effects, and today I'm going to be defending cliches as well as teaching you how to use them correctly. I've got this question all too often. Hey Effort, you sexy demon. So I've recently started writing, but I'm worried about my story and if it's a little cliche. I posted some of my draft on a forum and people yelled at me for it being cliche. So I took every one of them out and now my story seems a little dry. So should I use them? Yours sincerely, the millionth person that is asked today. Let's break this down by explaining difference between a cliche and a trope. Cliches are defined as a phrase or opinion that is overused and betrays a lack of original thought. Example, villains wearing black. A trope. A trope is a figurative or metaphorical use of a word or expression, or a significant or recurring theme or a motif. For example, villains wearing black. Yes, it's the same example, but this is where the distinction comes in. This trope has been used so commonly, it's became a cliche. I mean, there's no reason for villains to dress in all black at all, yet many writers use this trope to represent evil, because it is effective. Tropes are just components of storytelling. They themselves only become a cliche if they're used a lot, and even then the definition of cliche changes and it is mostly subjective. This is where problems start to arise. Too many people who are scared of going near commonly used tropes. Many new writers get told that cliches are bad, in all cases, no exceptions. Looking in forums, I've seen many writers ranting about all cliche tropes are overused crap that are infecting all books and movies. I completely disagree with these people. Let me explain why. Tropes are tools. Every writer has many tools at their disposal, tropes being one of them. Many new writers open this toolbox wide-eyed with excitement and grab something that looks like it will work, while more experienced writers will carefully consider what is best for the job, which tool will give them the best finish. For example, they'll be using a screwdriver for a scene, carefully fitting together a story with plot screws, barely seen by the reader. On the other hand, an experienced writer will immediately grab the most powerful tool they can use, which in this case might be a chainsaw that used to cut the plot into ribbons with a mighty roar. The point I'm trying to make here is that we can't blame the tool, we should blame the craftsman. I'm saying that yes, some tools are abused, and cliche tropes are no exception. Whether a cliche trope is good or bad depends on how good the craftsman is. There are two simple steps for fixing a cliche trope if you're adding one. Number one, look at what the scene needs to do, and number two, if it is bad and there's no other alternative, adapt the cliche or delete it. It's only cliche if a commonly used trope is used wholesale. We'll need examples for this. How about one I personally hate? It's called kill the boss. Have you ever noticed that in many books and movies ending, the boss dies and the rest of his minions seem to fall over and die from, I don't know, a heart attack, heartbreak maybe? This trope is a little cliche, and if used by itself, it's not that good of a cliche trope. It can get a little tiring and a little bit of, oh, that was very convenient. Okay, first step. What's this scene meant to do? Let's make a book idea very quickly. So it's a YA novel. A sequel has already been set up by the main villain revealing himself. The henchmen of this book are clay golems, 100,000 of them. So for each of these, your hero kills the second in command by assassination, and they think he's the main bad guy. And then, in most books, the golems fall apart or die after his death. I understand why people do this. The book needs to end in a concise way. You can't just keep pushing on the fight. So a lot of writers believe the only way to finish it concisely is for the golems to just fall apart. Why they fall apart? I mean, I don't know. But they're missing out on big opportunities. Here's a few alternatives you can use on the last 2 points to change it from a cliche into something a little bit more original and a bit more impactful later on in the series. So the golems are unaffected after the assassination. They continue to fight, overwhelming the main force of the heroes, who are forced to flee the fight along with anyone left. They grab horses and flee. Behind them, the army here are pretty much doing the same, but many of them fall in the attempt. In the distance, they hear the screams of the city of people being slaughtered. This is a pretty good alternative that will affect the next book. Many people let the henchmen die to get a hard reset for the next book, but now why not let it go on for the next one? Let's look at another couple of examples. So the golems are enhanced to literally explode if he dies. The golem's life energy is charged into this task. Explosives rain around the army and of course on our heroes, devastating the army and maybe killing and injuring the heroes. It's a disposable army. It's essentially Suicide Squad. So it's a pretty bittersweet ending, and could put, if this is good for flip books, so if you're in a book that the heroes are actually in a pretty good situation, you need to make it a bit worse, he uses this strategy, and then the next set of golems he can make in a couple of weeks, but by the time they traverse, they're gonna have to fight a brand new set. This makes it a little bit more interesting. Or how about your heroes capture the second in command? The mage of the group controls his mind, forcing him to give control over the golems, or it could be any reason just to get control over them. The golems fall under the mage's command. If the hero's army took a lot of losses throughout their campaign, this could make an attack on the main bad guy's massive army actually look feasible, and this could be a really good strategy. And it's not going to look ridiculous like it does in many books that the hero's army can take unimaginable odds. They actually have an army behind them now. I'm intending to use this in one of my books. There's even more. Here's another few quick ones. The golems are not controlled by anyone and just lash out at anyone and anything. Roaming bands of golems could cause problems for both sides later. That's a pretty nice wild card. Say the golems look around after it happens, look around confused and begin to speak. They explain they've been controlled for a long time. The heroes ask them to help and they agree as they want to save their kin still under the villain's control. Maybe the golems just stop moving. Maybe they don't blow up and they don't fall apart, they just stop moving and you've got to put scrolls into their mouth to make them move again. And maybe the golems collapse and the army cheers and leaves, then go back to their camp close by. In the next big book, the bad guy reveals himself with the same army under his command who rise back up. It could be a little bit of a false ending. Again, there are so many things you could do to make this cliche actually really interesting. Adapt the endings to lead towards the goal or conflict you want. All of these examples come from this cliche. Without it, they wouldn't exist. So as long as you adapt the cliche by subverting it or adding in an original appendage to it, any cliche is fine. As writers, we want to challenge our readers. No one wants to read a book that has a trope they've seen a million times. And that's it for me. Remember guys, there's nothing wrong with using cliches, as long as you're adapting them ever so slightly or putting an interesting spin on them, or even just using the cliche as it is. As long as it's not chock full with tons of cliches, using one that's commonly used is no problem. The reason why it's so commonly used is because it's so effective. Anyway guys, if you liked the video, like it, and if you've got this far, go into the comment section and put an adapted version of a cliche like I did in this video. Let's put our heads together and get some great ideas flowing. Regardless, I can't wait to read them. Take it easy, best of luck in the book, and I'll see you guys next time.